Kiwi.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Suckling on the teat of tech.
With Paul Brislen.
The high-tech stories of the week, twitter.com/Paul Brislen, parked outside a police station this morning.
Absolutely.
Making a complaint?
No, it's a convenient parking bay. But, you know, I like to keep an eye on the powers that be and know what they're up to at all times.
Indeed. You're fresh from the Two Ands conference yesterday, the Telco conference in Wellington.
Bless you, sir. Blessed. That's lovely. Yes, the Telecommunication Users Association Telco Day conference, our 20th annual conference. And I think it was fantastic. I had a whale of a good time. I hope everybody else did too.
Is where people talk about the future of telecommunications in New Zealand?
Well, that's right. Traditionally, it's always been a bit of a regulatory talk fest, and you want to chew your arm off to escape. And I tried to change it around a bit this year. We had Sir Paul Callaghan, New Zealander of the Year, come in and talk to us about the future of New Zealand and what we can do to change it. And he was astonishingly cool. We had Point England School come along to talk about their electronic use in the classrooms. They all have netbooks. This is a very poor school in a very poor area, and they are making phenomenal use of blogging and video work. They each week the classes do Point England News Network, PNN, and they broadcast this out to each other. They have followers all around the world. They do video conferencing with Will Smith to talk about what it's like to be Will Smith. They are astonishing. You'd really like them, actually. We should hook you
cool.
up.
Can you imagine?
They are well cool.
Can you imagine if we had that as kids, and then the record of what we were doing as kids would now be digital and there forever,
and all up in the cloud. And the parents, so they're extending it out now, so the kids will be able to take the netbooks home and have Wi-Fi access at home. They're building a wireless network to around the community because there's no, the parents. It's a very poor part of New Zealand. They don't necessarily want to spend money on telco broadband. So the school says, well, we've got a connection. Let's beam wireless off the roof here to the roof of your house.
That's cool.
And we'll figure it all out. Yeah. It is just tremendous. Very inspiring stuff.
Moving along, the ultra-fast broadband, of course, would have been a big topic of discussion, and the regulatory holiday that now Stephen Joyce has scrapped. So this is good news.
It is very good news, and my hat's off to Stephen Joyce. He still doesn't see the problem with the regulatory holiday, but he's accepted that the rest of the industry and all of the consumer groups absolutely do have a problem with it. So he said, okay, well, we'll make a change. If somebody comes up with an option, we'll make a change. And the hard-working guys at MED, the Ministry of Economic Development, has suggested building in certain contractual obligations, but allowing the Commerce Commission full access and oversight of the fibre build, which means if anybody does play silly buggers, the Commerce Commission can slap them upside the head with a stick and say, no, thou shalt not do that. And this is exactly what we wanted.
Okay, what else needs fixing?
Well, for me, that's probably the biggest bugbear. There are certain other bits and pieces, but they're all minor league. For me now, it's more a case of fantastic. Let's get on. Let's choose who's going to build this thing. Start putting it in the ground, and then schools like Point England can get on and actually take it to the next level and start using it. And that's really where the fun starts. Once somebody at this conference described it as being a bit like a birth experience. You spend all your time fretting about the birth itself, and then at the end of the day after the birth, you've got this baby, and you've now got to figure out what you're doing for the rest of your life.
But ultimately,
the situation we're in.
The baby will find out what they do with their own lives, right?
Exactly.
And the child will end up doing all the stuff that you never thought it could do, much like like the broadband,
that's right.
like fast streaming video to the home, like services like Netflix that they have in the States.
And Netflix is just going from strength to strength, and the BBC is reporting today that it is now it now accounts for 30% of all traffic in the US, and is likely to hit 50% of all traffic by the end of the year. So this is an astonishing growth path.
It's dominating file sharing, illegal file sharing.
It is, because, as we've said in the past, people don't necessarily want to steal this stuff. They just want access to it. And, oh my goodness, if you give them access to the content they want, people will pay for it.
Yeah.
It's really not rocket science.
It's a no-brainer.
Get out of the way and let people give you money. It's phenomenally stupid if you stand there and say, wait a minute, no, we control this. We'll decide when and where and who and what and how. You don't. Those days are gone.
The problem in New Zealand, though, is that I can see that it won't be an independent company that wants to do this stuff. It'll be something like Sky or Telecom or Vodafone. They're all going to want to provide this, and they're going to put the brakes on anyone else who wants to come in and set up an independent business to do it.
And that's why we absolutely need to have the regulator have a look at this sector. Currently, in the telco world, we have a regulator who looks at these things and says, no, that's anti-competitive, you can't do it. No, that's okay, you can do that. There is nothing like that in the broadcast world, and much as we like to think of convergence as happening, it's certainly not something that the politicians are willing to grapple with at this stage. And there is no sign of any form of convergence in the regulatory sphere. So on the one hand, we can have telcos being regulated and told they can and can't do things, but the other bits on the network, because it's a television program, no, you go right ahead and do what you need to do. That's entirely up to you. There's no problem there at all. So that is a big concern. I do think we're going to have to address that in the not-too-distant future, because we've got the same bits of data moving on the same networks being treated completely differently, depending on whether you think you're a telco or whether you're a television company.
Indeed. Paul Brislen, thanks very much for your time.
Anytime.
Cheers. Twitter.com/Paul Brislen to continue.